It's me with my festive t-shirt on, which is good news. Can you hear me? That is. Okay, good news. Right, okay, let's get this show on the road. So slowly, you have to do your how do you do your little calming sea vibes? That gas main. That's what that is. Right. Hi. Welcome to the DigitalOcean Amsterdam December edition. This month is going to be an end of year special. Normally we have like 2 talks. We have beers, pizza, very casual. Tonight we're going to have like 1 talk and then a quiz. And we have crazy prizes, which is super cool. But we'll go more into that later. I'm David. I'm the guy who sends out the emails, including the one this morning, which I didn't mean to send to everybody, but somehow everybody got it. So yeah, no, you don't need to read that one, but it's fine. That's me. People helping to make this meetup possible. Sharon, who you hopefully saw around the corner, she ticked you off, gave you a name badge. Yeah, she is super great at doing that. And then Hugo runs the live stream. He makes sure that you can read this back when you feel like it, so that's great. Hopefully you got a raffle ticket as well. That's also an important thing to have. Does everybody have a raffle ticket? Yeah. Yes. Good news. What else am I missing out on? No, that is it. Yeah, so we have a couple of sponsors, and you can see this nice like broad space where there's like nothing in it. But there is now. Normally we have like 2 sponsors, so we got Your Majesty right over there. This is their venue, this is our office, and then DigitalOcean, they pay for the beers, pizza, and all the other things. And this month, and maybe from now on, we also have O'Reilly, the guys who make books, and I'll introduce them a bit more in a bit. But there's all the things. So if you didn't know, DigitalOcean, they're the first cloud hosting provider to use solid-state drives everywhere. You can create a droplet in 55 seconds, and I did this week because I had credit to spare, and I just turned on their most expensive servers and just annihilated it. It was great fun. It takes 55 seconds, it's super easy, and then you can do more or less whatever you like. You have full root access, so you can have fun on that. Yeah, it's super easy. Instead of being angry and breaking your keyboard or running servers, I found a new GIF. This is how I run servers, and we should stay away from that. You can have fun at crazy Christmas pies. This is our festive slide. Yeah, and then we are Your Majesty. This is our office. We're a design technology firm. We make digital product for like Netflix, Adidas, Samsung, Coca-Cola. I added some new slides here. So this is Samsung, which we always have. They're a big client. We make their website, their shop. We do some in-store stuff. Yep, we're super cool. We also do stuff at Adidas. I thought I deleted this slide, but apparently not. We did Adidas. We put like shoes on the side of cubes and put them all across Europe. That's quite fun. And they're all connected, and it was quite a challenge to make them all live sync, but that was fun. And then new one, Rottefeller. These guys are a Norwegian skiing brand. Apparently these guys are famous for making that little clip that if you ever go skiing and you step into your skis and it clips. These guys are the guys who invented that. So that's very cool. We did their website. And yeah, that is the Your Majesty team. This may have been slightly edited, but no one can tell. Yeah, and then O'Reilly. These guys, I got in touch with these guys a few weeks ago. Asking if they do any meetup stuff. They have provided our some prizes for the raffle, which is great, / quiz. And there's some stickers over there, which is really good, and they got pens and more than I could have ever asked for, and I'm super grateful, easily pleased. You'll know them because they make like books like TensorFlow and modern Java recipes and JavaScript, and my favorite is trying stuff until it works. I like that one. And they apparently have 40,000 books in their repertoire, so hopefully there is one in there for you. They also have the CSS definitive guide, which is 1,100 pages. It's good bedtime read. I found this one on the internet. I was like, this needs to go in. Yeah, we're now vaguely official partners. We still have to tick some boxes, but yeah, they also do a lot of conferences. I went to Velocity in Barcelona a few years ago. That's a web performance, huge conference. They do an AI one, Fluent. Like I think Velocity this year is in London, so if you want to buy a ticket to that, you can get 20% off right there. So that's cool. It's good fun. It's a good conference to go to. And that's it for that. The agenda for tonight, as I mentioned earlier, is slightly different. We started off a bit late because people were generally running a bit late, so we give them a chance to get in. So if you give 10 minutes on this, we've got time. So first up, this is the introduction. Then you've got Bas. He's going to talk about InnerSource, using open source practices to make your inner practices better. He can introduce it so much better than I can. Then we'll have a break, and then after the break I'm back, which is unusual. We're going to do a roundup. I'm going to talk about stats about the year, and then there's a quiz, and hopefully everyone will be able to join in and the Wi-Fi doesn't die. That would be good. And then sometime around 8:45ish, pizzas may turn up. I hope they do. Yeah, that is the night. I do always do emergencies because it's good to know, in that kind of panic. Yeah, if there is a fire, we've got fire exits behind you, toilets are also over there just in case. We also have one where you came in. You'll run down the stairs and jump over plant pots, but you should make it. And the fire exit place is across the road on the bridge. You can stand there, chill with a beer, whilst we put out the fires, and yeah, hopefully that won't happen. Also, if you hurt yourself, we haven't had this yet, but I'm sure, yeah, maybe, who knows. Touch wood, it won't happen. If you hurt yourself, you can find one of the Your Majesty team, there's Casper somewhere lingering over there. Hugo and I also know things. We'll give you paracetamol or drugs of some description, or yeah, wrap you up. We've got a first aid kit, and call you an ambulance if need be, but again, hopefully you won't need that either. So that is emergencies done. We have a code of conduct, which is kind of important. This lets everybody know where they stand if something does happen, and the kind of things we abide by. I think it's an important thing to have. I'll just read a bit. So DigitalOcean is dedicated to providing a harassment-free event for everyone, regardless of gender identity, an expression, age, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, religion, or that thereof, although we are doing Christmas, so, I mean, yeah. Or technological choices. There is a longer version on the meetup page if you really want to read it, but the general TLDR is just be nice to everyone, and they'll hopefully be nice to you. If you do have any issues, you can always talk to me about it, or you can tweet me about it, or Hugo is also talkable. And then if you want to take it further, there is Samantha, and she's on there. All the details are on the last page. Yeah, normally I have a 6-month list of things to do coming up, but I'm yet to do 2018. I've got a few ideas, but I only had 2 weeks since the last one, and I've been really doing the raffle. That's my main priority. So it's a bit bare, but we have some dates for the next half year. And yeah, they're usually the third week of January. So if you have any ideas for people that you really want to see, then give me a shout. Or if you yourself want to do something, then I'm all ears. But yes, in the next 2 to 4 weeks, I will send lots of emails out to people and get them in and fill that up. So that's that. And then yeah, this is almost the end. There is me in Rome on a unicorn. It happens sometimes. There's my Twitter. Samantha, she is the global meetup person. Yeah, you can contact her, you can give her feedback, you say nice things or mean things. She will take both, and if you want to say them privately, her email is samantha@digitalocean.com. Yeah, I send her lots of emails. And yeah, hopefully you won't need it, but it's there for your taking. And that is it. Does anybody have any questions? No, good news. Right, okay, so first up is Bas from GitHub. I'm going to plug him in, and yeah.
Boss.
Good stuff. Yeah, we'll welcome him in. Thanks, David. Right, sort you around. Dongle.
Yeah, sure.
There we go, sir.
Thank you.
And that's for the microphone.
So thanks, David, for the introductions. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Bas Peters. I'm a solutions engineer working at GitHub. Because as solutions engineers at GitHub, basically we help customers that use GitHub at work, you could say. So we help them to be successful using GitHub. So we have a lot of interactions with organizations that use GitHub for their software development. I'm based here in Amsterdam, so we have an office in Amsterdam since I think spring 2015. GitHub has a presence here, so we're currently located in the Spaces building, so we have our offices there. At Vijzelstraat, Spaces nowadays have multiple locations, so we're at Vijzelstraat. I think there's around 15 people working from that office. We also get a lot of visitors from teams that work across Europe. So for example, currently there's about 5 people from the enterprise support team that co-work for a couple of days from the office. We have salespeople working from Amsterdam, but we also have 3 engineers here. 1 engineer is working on GitHub Enterprise, which is our kind of on-premise product. And 1 engineer is working on platform, so more focusing on our data centers. And 1 engineer is like a front-end GitHub.com developer. So it is, there's many different roles. It's not just like a sales organization. Who of you is familiar with GitHub? So I think most of you are familiar with GitHub. So yeah, the first commit for GitHub was October 27, but GitHub was founded as an organization in 2008. So initially GitHub was just built for a group of people that wanted to collaborate more effectively together. So it was never kind of designed in the beginning to be like the product that it is now with the community that we have now. But it grew really fast. So they were sort of forced into becoming an organization and started hosting this platform and building out the platform. Today we have around 25 million users across the globe. And there's, I think, currently over 73 million repositories on GitHub. So GitHub itself, we have our headquarters in San Francisco, and there's, I think, today around 715 employees. We're highly distributed, so most people, I think 60% of the employees work across the globe, from home, from co-work spaces, from some of our smaller offices like the one here in Amsterdam, and the other part works from the San Francisco office. So just as a brief introduction. So what I'm going to talk about is, I'm going to talk about something we call like InnerSource. It's not a term that was invented by GitHub. It's, I think, Tim O'Reilly. We've been talking a bit about O'Reilly, the publisher, today. So Tim O'Reilly kind of coined the term InnerSource of like building software, using open source principles. So I want to start a bit about talking about open source. So I think today most software that impacts the world is related to open source. It's either open sourced or the frameworks that are used are open source. So today open source software has a huge impact. I think most who's working as an engineer here, I think most people are developers. And I think most of you regularly use open source components. Whether it's like for infrastructure as code, whether it's Ansible or a Chef, Puppet, these all are open source projects. Whether it's like in data science, the blockchain technology, all these great like altcoins, the projects behind them, they're all on GitHub or open source projects. A lot of programming languages, Swift for example, are open source. And this example I want to use to talk a little bit about the impact of open source. So I don't know if any one of you is familiar with Illyria, the company. So they're a gaming company, and they're still building it. I think I have no idea whether it's already in general release. So they have a game called Age of Ascent, which is like, it's kind of you're a fighter pilot and you can conquer the universe, and it's built as a in-browser game. and they build it to scale out massively. So like easily thousands and thousands of people need to be able to play the game concurrently. So they built everything using .NET Core, and they started contributing to .NET Core heavily because they wanted to squeeze everything out of that platform, to reduce the footprint, of course, because otherwise it requires so much infrastructure. So they made major contributions, for example, to the Kestrel HTTP engine. And I think it's a great example of a small company contributing in this case to .NET Core, which is Microsoft technology, and of course we all benefit from it. So thanks to their contributions, we all, if we use .NET Core, we use the Kestrel engine, it became way faster, not thanks to Microsoft, but thanks to Illyriad that had this need. And I think it's a great example to how in open source anyone can contribute and it can have a huge impact. So I think one of the reasons so open source software development is successful is I think it just addresses like a need that we as humans have to take ownership of our work and to explore things, to create new things, to learn new skills. I hope at least that is that are the things that bring you into a flow, you could say. So if you want to understand why open source is so successful, I think this book is a great way of understanding it. Is any one of you familiar with Daniel Pink's book, Drive? So this is a book about intrinsic motivation. It's a short read, so it's worth reading, I think. And it's really about what motivates people. And Pink, he focuses on these three elements: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And I'll very briefly touch on them before I, start talking about, InnerSource, adopting open source principles. The first one is autonomy. So that is really about that. According to Pink, people they need autonomy over their task. So what you're doing, over your time, when you're going to do it. The team you're working with, so who do you collaborate with, and also the technologies, the tools and technologies that you use. So it's really important that you have a choice, because if you have that choice, you will do a better job. And I think that is exactly what open source allows you to do. You can decide, to contribute to projects whenever you have time or whenever you're in the mood to do it. You can choose, what projects you prefer, what you like. Let's say infrastructure as code. Some people prefer, maybe Ansible, others Chef, and others Puppet. But you can make that choice for yourself and start contributing or using these specific technologies. So I think that is a really important point to make people successful in what they do. And this whole autonomy, I think, is used in more and more. I've seen once a documentary about an organization, cleaners that use this principle. So it was a Finnish company, and the cleaners, they cleaned like the huge the cruise ships. And they just had small teams, and they just went on board and started cleaning stuff. No one had like an assignment like you do the vacuum cleaning and you do whatever. So you you collect all the garbage. They just worked as small teams, and they just were autonomous. And I think a recent example in the Netherlands, a couple of maybe a month ago or something, there is on Sunday evenings you always have Tegenlicht, a documentary. I don't know if any one of you is familiar with it. It's about like new technologies or things that impact society, you could say, whether it's economy, social, or political. And there was Jos de Blok was there from Buurtzorg, and they do like healthcare at home, so helping mostly elderly or people with disabilities. And they also implemented this model hugely successfully. So just autonomous. So the teams that help people in homes, they make their own decisions. So that when they do their work, what tools and techniques they use, so what kind of things they need for help, what medication or whatever. So they can make their own decisions. And they are hugely successful and deliver a great value. So autonomy, I think, is a really important part. The other part is mastery. So mastery is maybe about, you know, according to Pink, about the Goldilocks task. I don't know if you're familiar with the fairy tale Goldilocks and the three bears. So she goes into the woods, and there's a house, and she goes into the house, and there's like, well, there's lots of stuff there, you know, furniture and things, but there is the 3 plates of porridge. And 1 plate of porridge is like way too hot, so she tasted it and it's too hot. 1 is too cold, and you know the middle one is just right. You know, it's the right temperature, so she eats it all. So that is basically this Goldilocks task. It is just right, and I think so. For example, if you work in engineering and someone gives you like a boring task to do, will you do a great job? I think you just want to get rid of it, right? You just execute the task and you want to move on with something that is at the top of your mind, you know, that brings you into a flow, that is fun to do. But on the other hand, if someone hands you like a really complicated task, like a huge task, and then they say like, yeah, Friday's the deadline, you need to, then you stress out. But it's too complicated to do, so you get frustrated. So it's also not a good thing. So in your daily life, when you execute tasks, ideally these tasks will bring you into a flow. I don't know, who has experienced flow? And dares to admit it, or to some extent. I do not even, it's not just at work, right? If you go for a run, for example, you go dancing or anything, you can come into a flow, something that you truly enjoy. And I think that is really key, because that will, you know, it will sharpen you and it will help you to do a great job. I think the other parts, so the Goldilocks task is more about the complexity, so that it needs to be a challenge, but not too much of a challenge. The other part, of course, is we always talk about that in engineering, and there's no other way, you know, it's about learn something new every day. So some people just, you know, ask themselves every day, like, you know, at the end of the day, what have I learned today? I don't do that, but maybe I should do that. But and then there is the third part is purpose, and I think purpose is also really important, because you know, in open source, you can choose to work on projects that are meaningful to you. And I don't think you would ever contribute to a project that is not meaningful to you, unless you just have to fix a bug because you just need it. So that is really key. And sometimes I meet people at organizations where it's not even clear what the purpose of a project is. So they're working on some project and they don't even truly understand what the purpose of that project is. So I think it's really important that you always make sure that, you know, that you work on a project that is kind of meaningful to you. Maybe in some cases we do not have a choice, but hopefully, you know, most of you do work on projects that are meaningful to you, because then you will do a way better job than when you know, you're not behind, you're not kind of supporting a specific project. In that respect also, I think it can really help that these, you know, when you work on a project and when you are a team, and that you kind of have a mission with your team. So it's not really people telling you what to do, but it should be more like, you know, create the best checkout experience, or create the easiest way to transfer money, or the easiest way to share a restaurant bill. You know, these are kind of missions that will really kind of inspire a team, you know, because they can make the decisions themselves on how they perform and what they deliver, what technologies they use. So it also goes back to the autonomy. So that is just a little bit about kind of the background, I think, why open source is so successful, and from there we can move towards like, oh, how can you apply this? So how can you apply open source principles when you develop software, you know, internally at work? I think the first part of this is, it's really key to be able to share your work. We still see a lot of customers that basically, where project teams work in silos, often they just have no idea what other teams are working on. And they have no visibility of the code that other teams are working on. They're just working in their project team with their code base, their repositories, and there's no visibility. And I think it's really key to be able to kind of be on one platform and being able to kind of, you know, share your code so that other people can learn from it. And in some organizations you might have a few projects that are like, have some secrecy around it, so maybe you have no visibility. But in general, ideally, if you have visibility of code, you can just start browsing the code, you can learn from it, you can learn from code snippets, but you can also learn from context around code. So discussions, for example, in issues or maybe pull requests. And I think from there, Organizations that adopt this sharing principle, the ultimate goal maybe is also to have people kind of contribute to other projects. So let me give you one example. Let's say you're building a software product, or maybe a family of software products, and maybe you have some kind of shared UI library. So you create UI widgets, and maybe at some point you decide, well, maybe we should have one repository with all the widgets so that the different teams can use these widgets. And then you maybe make one team responsible. I've seen this in a couple of organizations. There's one team responsible for maintaining these widgets. And then the next thing is, whenever you need a change in a widget, what you do is basically you create an issue and then ask them to implement it. But often then you just have to wait, for them to find the time to implement it. So, but if you have access to the code, you can just basically you can implement it yourself, or create a first draft of it, and then you can contribute it back to that project. Or take an example where you're working in a front-end team, you're building a website, and or maybe you're building kind of checkout mechanism, or you need a new checkout mechanism, so that the business wants you to add whatever PayPal or Klarna support. And so you go to the team that is responsible for the payment systems and ask them, hey, we need this support. And they say, well, we're 5 sprints ahead, so maybe spring next year we can put it on the backlog for the time being. And then when we prioritize this, we get back to you when we can implement it. So the next thing you start doing is like, chasing the product owner, like, okay, what is the priority? Will you deliver maybe by March, hopefully? But on the other hand, if you have visibility to the code, you might start browsing the checkout code for some other systems. Maybe when you're implementing, maybe, I don't know, Klarna, and you have the PayPal already, you can look at the code and think, well, this is pretty similar to how Klarna can be implemented. So you just start coding a draft, and it kind of works. So you can then contribute back your code and ask the team, hey, can you please review my code, so we can then have this feature way earlier than waiting for you to prioritize it. And there's quite a lot of organizations that work that way, so that work towards like having like all the projects being like public, and people just start contributing. Especially where you see it when you have all these microservices. So whenever you make code changes, you hit a lot of different repositories with code changes. So when you just can contribute back to the core teams, you can basically speed up delivery. So when you have code visibility, a really core part of that is then to make sure that you have proper documentation. Now, I think documentation is very often overlooked. It's both very often overlooked in open source, so a lot of documentation in open source is not up to date. And I think it's often the same thing internally at organizations. So if ever you're wondering, I want to contribute to open source, but I have no idea what to contribute, just start with adding, helping with documentation, because a lot of projects can use updates there. Of course, I hope every one of you is familiar, every one of you who is using Github or some other system is familiar with maybe the importance of a README file. So if you do share your projects within the organization, I think it's really key to have a proper README file. It serves as like a welcome mat for your project. So just very brief, explain what is the scope of the project, what is the purpose of the project, and make sure that there are some steps how people can get started, so can run the code, for example, so how they can install it or compile it and run it. So it doesn't need to be like an extensive documentation. Very brief is perfect. But at least people then, when they go to a repository, they have a basic understanding of what the code does and how they can basically start using the project. Another thing which is kind of really key in open source, but also maybe important internally, especially if you have a slightly larger organization, is how do you want people to contribute to your projects? So maybe some teams, they have a lot of pressure, and they do not have the time to really do a lot of code review, so they might be very happy if you do maybe small bug fixes, or if you just open issues, and other teams are super happy if you are willing to help out to improve the code, and a contributing file can really help there. It can also really help your internal team. So when you onboard someone, to provide some guidelines on, what quality standards, what best practices do we require. So what kind of test coverage, for example, or maybe style guidelines do we require for our code. So it's also a great way of just writing brief documentation for a project where the people are, new, when people are new to the project, to learn about, how can they contribute and what do they need to deliver in order to contribute. You can go way beyond this. So, for example, this is an example of the .NET Core documentation. So on Github, but also on other platforms, you can build a website. So you can build extensive documentation using Markdown, and then you can render it as a nice website using a Jekyll template, for example. I always kind of like the documentation that so this is searchable. It has a table of contents, so it's proper documentation. I think it's very useful. The other part is to require like public and also especially like focused code review. At least at GitHub, we truly believe in code review, and for us it is there will never be a feature shipped at GitHub that is not reviewed by at least like 1 or 2 other people. I think most of you will be familiar with the pull request workflow. So most vendors that provide source control software, whether it's GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, they all provide pull request review. Even TFS. Is there anyone using TFS at work? Is no one? Okay, a few are. So TFS also, for example, provides a pull request flow nowadays. So if you use the pull request workflow, you start with a feature branch, which is something that is kind of almost required, you could say, in open source. At GitHub, for us, it really helps. So we always develop using feature branches. You add some commits, and then you push your commits to the server. Open a pull request, and then that is where like discussions around code and code review happens. And I think there's a few benefits of using this model. One is that who of you is using branching a lot? So there's quite a few people that use branching a lot. What I like most about it is that you can just experiment. You can create a branch, you can start experimenting, and if it fails, you just delete the branch. There's no issues like having to do a rollback or getting rid of your commits on a master branch or anything. I think that is really a great part of it. The other part, of course, is that you're never blocking any progress for other developers because you're working on your branch. Although some, I've met organizations, of course, that believe in like, yeah, you should break master, and then, because then at least you have to fix it really fast, because otherwise your coworkers will be really angry at you. And then the pull request. So is any of you actually using pull request workflows at work, or? So there's quite a lot of you are using it. So I think there's often when, especially people that are maybe new to software development, are kind of hesitating. They just open. So who of you opens a pull request like right before you think it can be shipped? So like as late as possible. A few of you. And so who of you is, kind of happily opens a pull request really early when the code is still, in draft? And okay, a few people. But I think that is really an important part. I think the earlier you open a pull request, the earlier you can have a discussion with your peers. And some people just are hesitant doing it because they say, well, my code is just shitty. I do not want to share it with the rest of the world, because people will start saying, hey, have you seen the code that this guy, I mean, it's terrible. But that will never happen, especially not if you provide some context. So just make sure that you just state like either putting like work in progress in front of your pull request title, or just make clear, maybe with emojis, whether it's a draft. So put the construction fence up and draft. So the key part is that you provide proper context. So when you open a pull request, just be clear about what is the purpose of this pull request. Do you just want to collect ideas, or do you want your coworkers to do a line-by-line code review? Because then they can provide the right feedback. Because it doesn't make sense that if you're just starting a new feature and you wrote your first draft, that people are starting doing like line by line code review, spend a lot of time, get back with a lot of feedback because it's just a draft code, and that's a waste of time. So that is really important. I think the other part that is really key is to when you do code review and you provide feedback, is take the time to do a good job. I think so. If you decide I'm going through this code, provide proper feedback. I think it's really, really important. So take your job doing code review serious. And then if you're the developer and you receive feedback, I think it's really key to kind of close the feedback loop. So always provide, just provide some feedback, so what you do. I mean, or if you have questions, just ask the questions. Because I think it's terrible if you spend a lot of time doing proper code review and you hear nothing back. It's like, what did they do with my suggestions? What happened? Or you have to dig into the code. But so it's always nice, to just provide feedback. So close that feedback loop in code review. Another thing is, so recently I got a request from a customer that we're asking, we have an issue because we have a category of pull requests and we do not exactly know what the category is. So can you help us, making a report or anything? Because we have pull requests that are open way too long and no one responds to it. And so they wanted to know the root cause. Is it just that they had way too many changes, so no one dares to kind of start working on it because it would take like maybe a day to do the code review, or what's going on here? I think it's really key also to be responsive. So if someone opens a pull request and requests feedback, even if you do not have the time. So if you feel kind of responsible for the project, or maybe you've in the past introduced those code changes that are now edited, maybe you can just, even if you do not have time to do a proper code review, just give some feedback or go very quickly through the code so that someone can continue the work. That can really help. So it's all about like communication, I think, in collaboration, which is really key. The other thing is, and this is really one of, I don't know, it's one of my favorites. This is maybe mostly key in open source, but it can also really work in if you want to foster an inner source culture. So let's assume that you have multiple projects in your organization. There's multiple teams working on it, and often today they're small teams, so it's very, often you work kind of silos. You have like 5-6 people teams that work on projects. So if you want to foster a culture of your collaboration where people can contribute to each other's code if they want, I think this model could really work great to kind of promote this. So sometimes people would just like open an issue or anything, like some very small thing, like this is just a broken link in documentation. And it would take you as an owner of that project like seconds to fix it. But he's not fixing it. His feedback is, hey, thank you so much for reporting. Can you open a pull request with a fix? And the key thing what happens here is basically you start sharing the ownership of that project. So it's a great way to basically foster that culture of contributions. Because this person now is going to open a pull request, hopefully, against the project with, a very simple thing. Just he fixes a broken link, but that makes him a contributor to the project. So you kind of drag that person into the project to become a contributor. And I think it's a great way to make people more involved in the different projects that you have. The other part is the part of maintainers. So in open source, we all know that projects have, like, you could say owners or maintainers, or in Apache terms, they call it like committers or trusted committers. And organizations that adopt this inner source model often also introduce the role of a maintainer. So at PayPal, they call this the trusted committer, and their whole model of building software is around this. So what is this maintainer and what is the role? So the maintainer, and at first when I talk about it, you would think, oh, that's super boring. I never want to be a maintainer. But and maybe you are already in an open source project and you know what it takes sometimes. But I think the key thing is that when every project has several kind of owners, so people that are super familiar with the code base, they can take a role of kind of doing a review for that code. So basically they review all the contributions that are made, whether it's from the core team or whether it's from other contributors from other teams, and basically, you know, they help kind of merging in the code changes to master and provide feedback. Now, very often this is kind of a rotating job, because I mean, if you work as a developer, you want to focus on building code, and although you can really enjoy doing code review and you can learn a lot from it, you might not want to do this as a full-time job. So often in organizations that adopt this model internally, they have a rotating role of code maintainers. So there's like a group of owners of a project that will basically review all the incoming changes. And so if you then look at the full model, then you have users, like in open source. There's contributors, so you know, users might become contributors. So like this example with the cookie cutter project, where someone fixes a broken link. Then there's collaborators, people that have write permissions on the project, so they're like trusted developers for the project. And the maintainers are kind of responsible for doing code review and merging things into master. The big challenge that you will see with fostering this culture is that if all code is visible, so if people can easily learn from code examples that are in the different projects, then you also have the risk that if there is a lot of technical debt, that people basically learn from bad examples. And so that is one of the challenges that you often have, is all code has bugs, right? And every code base has bad examples. So, and it's impossible to get rid of them, right? You cannot continuously kind of, you know, update your code so that it's always the latest and greatest. So one thing that might help here is when people reuse a snippet, so some code that is a bad example, is just to, you know, fix it, of course, and then comment out the code. So just put a line, maybe a comment around the code, say, hey, you know, do not reuse this, but use maybe a link to some part where it's done right. So at Github, for example, so one of our engineers from our Puppet team, so that's doing the infrastructure as code, they had this issue because they have so many Puppet modules, and then, you know, people continuously kind of reuse parts of these modules to build new modules. So they had this problem where, you know, bad examples were introduced. So it was a way to kind of reduce it. So whenever they witnessed like a bad example, they would comment out the code, and then hopefully at a later point, it might be good also to create an issue if you take the time. So that can help then, if someone has time to go through the code, he can maybe pick up some of these issues and fix these issues. But this is definitely something to kind of you know, to pay attention to when you know, kind of building a culture in your organization where people can learn from other code examples. The other thing, of course, is like, you know, implement rigorous testing. So who is using continuous integration for their projects? I hope everyone raises their hand, but there's still there's an interesting part too. Of course, I think, you know, everyone understands the importance of continuous integration. So whenever you push changes to a server, you know, it will kick off CI and it will run all the tests and make at least sure that it, you know, can install and build the code without any issues, and then hopefully will run to some extent tests against your code. There is one other really important part to this, and that is also, if you want to build a culture where people can contribute to projects, you will not continuously kind of review people's changes, but the continuous integration server will create some kind of constant feedback loop. So it gives people confidence. So whenever you push changes to a repo you're not super familiar with, but you just want that, you know, you want to fix that feature or build that feature or fix that bug because you use the project in your own project, this will at least give you confidence, you know, that your code will pass. And if it's not passing, maybe you can fix it then and have at least some kind of, you know, level of quality, and then other people can go through it. To give you an example that I really like, this is from the Apple Swift project. So Initially, for the Apple Swift project, only Apple employees were kind of, you could say, maintainers of the project. So we're allowed to merge changes to master. And then they posted, end of February 2016, so already a long time ago. So now that the Swift continuous integration system is like established and proven, they introduced people that had like, I think merged in like 5 non-trivial pull requests into the project. They could become a maintainer. So only by the quality of the CI tests, they decided they would open up the project for non-Apple employees. So that helped them to build trust in the community to allow people to become maintainers of the project. Just the CI level, the CI test quality. And I think it's a great example of the importance of continuous integration. So with GitHub and most other systems also, they report statuses back into the pull request, so it brings the whole conversation like in one page. So whenever you push changes, the discussions or code review done by humans and code review done by the system is in one place, so it can help you to give like a one overview of the status of your code changes. The other part of automation is, of course, automating deploys. So I'll talk a little bit about how we ship software at GitHub. One thing we do is that we basically, or let me put it this way, so very often if you would go to github.com, you will not look at the master branch, but you will look at a feature branch. So we ship our code from a feature branch to verify the code in production. This was born from a need that it was hardly impossible for us to kind of have a reliable kind of staging environment. So we just started shipping features from the feature branch straight into production. We do have a canary environment, so that allows us to test in a limited environment. But most of the time, and I can see it, I have a status bar when I go to GitHub. I can see that there's it's a feature branch you're looking at and not the master. So this is kind of our deployment setup. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but there's a few things here. I think the key thing is that we use a bot in order to deploy code. So all our operations run through bots. In the pull request, you can of course also see like a deployment status. So you can see the deployment again also in the pull request context. And what we've done is within GitHub we use Slack. So we use a chat client and all our operations run through Slack. And for us this is really key. First, maybe because we are such a distributed organization. So maybe most of you work in teams that are close to each other. So you're just in one room, and it's very easy to ask help from someone else. But a lot of the people that work at GitHub, they work remote from home, so they have no one else to ask help. So if they're stuck, so we run all our commands through Slack, and that gives visibility. So it creates transparency. It's even persistent because Slack will, it's even addressable. You could even paste the URL to some commands, maybe on GitHub in a pull request or anything. So it also builds kind of an archive of all our operations. So whenever someone wants to deploy code into an environment, a lab environment, so for testing or to the production environment, they will just do a dot deploy, and dot is referring to ubot, which is our bot that we use. It's an open source project, and they would say like dot deploy this branch into this environment, and it will deploy the code. This also refers back to the autonomy. So deploys are not done in an automated fashion in the sense that they are triggered automatically. They're always triggered by an engineer. So there's an engineer that has been working on a feature and he wants to ship that feature. So that engineer will then execute these commands. Sometimes there might be other people that want to deploy, so there is a queue mechanism. So there will be a queue. So if there is someone else in the queue, you have to wait until it's your turn. So there's only one feature shipped at a time. It can go quite fast, so it might take like between 5 and 15 minutes for a feature to, you know, to go through the whole deployment, and then the verification in production, and then actually merging in after the deploy. Because that is what happens. Someone would maybe first deploy into Canary. It will dive into monitoring tools to make sure that it's not like, you know, an increase of exceptions or a decrease of performance. And then we'll deploy to production and, you know, dive into monitoring tools again to make sure that everything is stable and running fine. And then they will merge in that feature into master, and the next feature in the queue can go. Now, of course, we've always had extensive review. So when the code reaches this stage, the code is basically, you know, properly reviewed and tested, so kind of ready for production. So it's just to verify that feature into the production environments. And using this model, we deploy hundreds of times every week. So there's, I think, between 200 and 400 deploys done every week on github.com. And these operations through Slack we use for practically anything. So whether it's like in infrastructure or the database teams, where there's engineering to deploy code, even our salespeople use it. If someone creates a quote for GitHub for a customer, they can use, you know, .quote so many seats to with this discount to this. So everything runs basically from within Slack. So back to more maybe some cultural things, and luckily I think there's a lot of organizations that we are at a meetup right now, so we share knowledge, we talk to each other about our experiences, and I think that is really key. A lot of people, at least in the Netherlands, I think it's really popular that people kind of adopt this, what they call like the Spotify model. But the essence of it, I don't know if who is familiar with the Spotify model. Is any one of you using it in their organ? Have they adopted parts of it maybe? To some extent. So in the Spotify model you have squads, but that is just a team. Squads are organized in tribes. You could say that's like a release train maybe. So it's a group of people working in a product group. And then, so that is like very similar. I think most of you will work in an environment where you have teams, and among teams there might be some collaboration because you're working on one product or part of a product, so together to ship things. But they have also chapters and guilds. So initially they had the issue of scaling out the organization, so not like their infrastructure, but there was issues scaling out as an organization because they wanted to continue to act like a startup, you know, so, you know, move fast as possible. But when you create small teams, I don't know if any one of you experiences this from their own organization. So with agile ways of building software, you have very small teams, like 5 people, 6 people, maybe 9 at the most. So there's small teams. And then if you scale out as an organization, so you start hiring and hiring more and more people, you have a lot of teams. And in a way, in every team there's different roles presented. Maybe there's front-end development, there's maybe someone who's a test expert, someone is database expert. So in many of these teams there are similar roles. So what you have then is the issue of how to share knowledge between these teams. They act as kind of silos building, you know, they all have their mission and they ship products. So they introduced like chapters as kind of a horizontal layer across those teams within a tribe, so within like a product group or release train. And these chapters are managed by a very almost like traditional line manager, so someone who is responsible for career development, salary, and things like that. So a general kind of manager that we will all have, I guess. And so a chapter basically brings together from all these different teams within the tribe similar expertise. So if you are in the a database expert, you will be in a chapter with database experts within your tribe. Or if you're a front-end developer or a data scientist or whatever. So and that is a way to share knowledge. So you get together like on a weekly basis, for example, and you share, the challenges that you face or the experience that you have. And this is like, it works as what they call like a community of practice. So it is non-voluntary. So it's really part of your daily job. So, whether it's like a brown bag, a lunch session or whatever, it's kind of non-voluntary activity. So, which is different from like a community of interest. And at Spotify they call these guilds. And that is more like a way of sharing knowledge, voluntary. So like we have a meetup. I don't think any one of you is like forced to attend this meetup tonight. You come here because you want to learn something, right? You want to gain some knowledge, or you just have fun or network or whatever. But it's completely voluntary. But guilds are a way, a community of interest is a way of just, if you want to learn about something else, you have an interest in front-end development or a database or data science, you can just attend those meetings to learn something. But I think the chapter thing is really key here. It's like, if you have a lot of small teams, siloed teams, then that can help you to bring together expertise and help people to share their knowledge almost on a daily basis across the teams. Another part, of course, is like sharing experience like we do at a meetup. So, go talk at conferences. So a lot of organizations now, and it's partly because it's so hard to find good engineers. So, it's really important to just go out, attend conferences, meetups, etc., to meet new people. And I think HR people will love it if you do that. And that brings me to another part, is like what we see a lot of organizations do that adopt these kind of inner source principles. They also build a presence in open source. And there's a couple of reasons they do it. And great examples, I think, are PayPal, for example, but also Zalando here in Europe. So Zalando open source a lot of their software. I think another great example is Netflix. I think they open source practically anything that they build, because, there's no competitive advantage in the software they build, because their advantage is in the fact that they can, they can produce series like no other, because like Hollywood producers, and they have the distribution rights for a lot of other content. So it's the content that is the value for them, and it's not the software they build. So if you participate in open source, it can really help you in your organization. It can help with improving quality, right? If people will just use your software and they find bugs, they might help to fix it. It can help you to drive innovation, because, take that example with the Kestrel HTTP engine and Age of Ascent. They really wanted to squeeze everything out of it. So their lead engineer that implemented a lot of really creative solutions to make it faster and faster. It can also really help you to build a reputation in the open source community. And that is, again, something that HR people will love, because that can help you to be attractive to talent. The other side of it is, what shall you open source? When is it a good thing to open source something? And that is, I think, really difficult. I like these PayPal's example. They just have 4 questions, but there's a lot of blogs out there that, that provide a lot of advice on, when to open source something. But I like these because they're very, it's short and sweet. It's just like, who cares? So if you have a project, you want to open source it. So ask yourself, who cares about this project? We care about it in our organization because we use it. But will the community care about it? So can you imagine other people having a use for it? Okay, yeah. And the other part of this is, of course, also like, are we still using it? Are you still maintaining it? Which is really key. And of course, a big part is, are you still committed to it? And that is really important, because sometimes open sourcing can have a huge impact. If a project becomes popular, more and more people will start contributing, so that requires you to review those changes. And then, of course, the final part of the PayPal's questions is really, can we publish everything? I think I remember from Zalando, Laurie Apple, the community manager from Zalando, when she started at Zalando, she reviewed their projects, and there was a lot of stuff open source that was just partly open source, because they said, well, this part we can open source, but this part we cannot open source. But as a whole, without all the bits of code, the project didn't make sense to the community. And then you have the challenge, of course, to drive your users and make them into contributors and make contributors into maintainers. Now, this contribution funnel was created by Mike McQuaid, a colleague of ours at GitHub. And I think this is a really helpful guideline if you just want to drive and build a community. Is like, keep in mind, if you have users, and the cookie cutter template really comes in here, because that is the trick about, you have a user who reports some small issue, then turn that user into a contributor, because at some day this contributor might become a maintainer, and that will help you to sustain the project. So in a lot of organizations, that it's mostly maybe larger organizations where they kind of drive this initiative to build software, adopt these open source principles to share the knowledge, and also allow people to contribute to other projects. They often hire a community leader, or they have like a developer experience team that can help drive this initiative. So it's make sure that it's that your organization and all the code that you have is like is open to anyone, that it's like a welcoming kind of community that you build for all your developers internally. This person can help to promote tools, the technologies, and share best practices, and then also can encourage people to participate in projects. So rather than to open issues for each other's projects, to really participate and start contributing code, rather than just throwing ideas over the wall. Hey, can you fix this for me, please? But then just fix it and propose that. So I think if we put the things together, I think InnerSource it can be a way, you could say, of creating like a strong engineering culture. And it can build on the success of open source, and it also kind of uses the open source workflow. So where you focus on collaboration, you focus on transparency, but also focusing on quality. Making sure that you do code review, for example, use automation to help you to build good quality software, and I think it can allow teams to kind of move faster, because progress is not blocked. So whenever you want something done that is owned by a different team, you can contribute, and you do not have to wait until they will build that feature for you. At the same time, a lot of organizations, especially more traditional, like take banking for example, there's a lot of, in the banking sector, there's a lot of interest in adopting InnerSource, because they have a lot of issues, like continues to ship software. But it's also kind of a culture shift. Sometimes you feel very protective about your code, for example, so you do not want to share it with others, and you do not want others to contribute to it because it's your baby. So it's really kind of a culture change. And also, it needs the support from management, of course, in order to do so, because a lot of product owners, for example, initially say, hey, you work on this project, so you ship just stuff for this project, and you're not going to spend time on other projects. But in the end, it can only benefit you, because you will only contribute if there's a need for a specific bug fix or feature for your project. So it will only drive your project further. I think the other really important part, and it goes back maybe to the story about Daniel Pink, so the book Drive, is that it really requires a culture of trust. So, people really need to be able to take ownership of their work. I think that is really key. So that is kind of a culture that your organization needs to foster, and again, that management needs to support. And of course, it's important that then that everyone in the organization really kind of understands, works towards like a similar goal, so that it's very clear in the organization what is our mission, where do we want to head as an organization, because that will help you to focus on doing the right things. So that was it from my side. If ever you want to contact me, feel free at bas@github.com. So if you just have questions or anything, feel free to reach out. Are there any questions? I don't know if we have 1 minute left. One or two questions, if there are questions. Yeah.
Both in open and inner source projects, does GitHub have any techniques of dealing with stale or long-running feature branches of pull requests? Because I feel like that's a very common problem.
Yeah, it is definitely. Yeah, like even there's now we have this project Probot. I don't know if you've heard from it. It's like a bot that allows you to automate small things. So there's like even a stale issue like bot now that basically closes them out. No, but yeah, that is a really hard thing. I think it's really important. I think a lot of open source projects struggle with this, partly because they do not communicate a clear scope, because that is really an important part. And I think, for example, also the contributing guidelines and README can really help there to make sure that if people have raise issues or contribute, that it is part of the scope of a project, because that is one thing, because then it might be open forever because no one wants to merge things in, or they need to, it can be frustrating. In open source, labeling, of course, is used a lot. So things like help wanted. So there's many different ways of kind of trying to kind of mobilize the community to help out a bit more. But it can definitely be an issue. It's a challenge in a lot of projects.
Right, and jump in. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Can we give him a warm round of applause? Yeah, I really enjoyed that. It really closes off our year quite nicely, because we did chat ops, and we've done continuous integration, and obviously Git more or less everybody uses, so it was a really nice rounding to everything. So
great.
Thanks for that. We are now going to have like a 5-minute break, might be 10 to 10. Head to the toilet, grab some more beers, I will put more beers out, and then we will do the quiz. like half an hour early. And I can't stand between you and pizza. So we changed plans. I'm going to serve pizza, and instead of chatting and getting quickly drunk, we will munch pizza and then have a phone in the other hand to do the roundup. So if we regroup in like, I don't know, 15 minutes, hopefully you'll have pizza, there's beers, and then we can do quiz things, and then that's it. That sound like a good idea?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, music, Hugo. Yeah, very. Sounds like you were. That was very unexpected. Can you do your gas leak again, Hugo? That's it. Hugo does that so well. Yeah, so that was unexpected. Normally we do the pizzas after the talk, but it's not fair if you have to smell pizzas and hear me talking. So hopefully you've all got at least one slice of pizza in front of you, and yeah, and at least one beer, and we can smash through this, and that'll be great. So yes, that's that. And then, so I wanted to give like a little bit of background. This is like the end of year review. I started doing this meetup last November. DigitalOcean sent an email around saying that they wanted someone to host their meetup, and apparently they had a few people reply, but I was the only guy in Amsterdam. And so they're like, here we go. Here is the pack. It's all yours. And yeah, that was November, and it was very daunting at first. And so yeah, I managed to cobble things together. And in January we had our first meetup, and it seemed to go okay. And 11 meetups later, here we are, the end of the year. So yeah, 2017. It's been a pretty good year. This is a graph with a GIF on it, and this will play continuously. This is the number of like members we have in the group, and this is what I hold very close. Back right at the beginning, we had like 325-ish members. We now have like 1,250, I think. There we go, 1,255. I think this might have gone up since I wrote this, but it's roughly that amount. This year we've had 12 meetups with 22 speakers, both men and female, covering roughly 18 topics. So that's like DevOps, cloud, web dev, machine learning. There's been loads. We're pretty broad. We had roughly 616 attendees. Some of them might have been twice. Like I know Lee's been at least twice, so you're at least two of those. And we have around about 16.96 hours of content on YouTube. So if you want to go and like review, then you can get on there and watch it as if it was live. If you eat pizza at the same time, it feels like you're there. That being said, last month has no sound, or bits of it had no sound, so you kind of have to imagine what they're saying for an audio glitch. But yes, we've had around about 220 pizzas, 215 pizzas, which equates to something ridiculous like 3,000 slices of pizza. This is based on like 15 slices of pizza. We've eaten a lot of pizza. We've also drunk quite a few bottles of beer. 1,440 apparently. That's like, yeah, 5 crates a meetup, 5 or 6 crates a meetup times 24 is roughly about that, which apparently equals 432 litres. And we all know that 432 litres of beer is around about 4 British pints. So for those who don't drink beer, we've also had soft drinks. We get through about 3 or 4 packs, maybe a meetup. So that equates to like 300 over the year. 15 bottles of wine drunk by the guy at the back. And roughly 14 kilograms of M&Ms. So today we had 2 packets of peanut flavor and 2 packets of original, and that's like 1.4 kilograms to give you an idea. So like times that by 12, you get about 14 kilograms. The number of times I say in my speeches is apparently around about 17. It feels like more, but I keep doing it. It's really hard to stop. One day I will just get out of it and we'll be good. 2018, no, I didn't know. 2018, so we really I want to keep growing the group. That'd be really cool. I want to kind of shake things up maybe on the pizza front. I'd like to do more food things, something maybe more exciting and broader. And there are a few questions at the end of the quiz, which you don't get points for, to say what kind of things you'd like, the kind of like food you like, and if I can improve anything, that'd be like really appreciated. I make this meetup for you guys. I enjoy doing it, but ultimately you guys have to turn up, otherwise it kind of sucks, and I have like 215 pizzas to eat all by myself. So I need you guys to turn up, and hence I want you guys to get involved and give me some ideas as to what stuff you want, because I just go out and find interesting things on the internet, and you guys keep turning up, so that's always nice. It takes a few people to make this happen. I do quite a bit of it, but yeah, as you've seen today, like Sharon helps me like sign people in. I can't be in like 3 places at once. She's really good at that with a nice smile, and yeah. So I'm super grateful for her. Like Valerie sometimes helps out if Sharon's not here, or she puts like chairs out, or yeah, she's about. Hugo is always here, more or less, like bar when he's ill. Yeah, doing my live stream, and again, I can't do that on my own. And he is way more technical than I am, and can fix things. And when I'm panicking, he's got it covered. And I actually have a present for Hugo. It's not very exciting. But I actually bought you a bottle of Hugo.
Oh, nice.
Because so that's cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then in the background, this is Casper. He is a partner at YM. He suggests a few of the talks that have taken place, like the machine learning guys last month. That was his suggestion. Also the non-official ADE version. With Kuhn, the guy who did creative coding. That's his friend, so we stole him. And then also got to thank the guys from YM. I like trash the office like once a month, and they haven't shouted at me yet. It also takes me a few sometimes like all day today to make this work, and they don't shout at me for not doing normal work things. So that's nice. Yeah, the London Web Performance Meetup. These guys inspired me to do this kind of thing. It's a fantastic meetup in London. They're actually doing one tonight. They inspired this quiz, because they do a quiz once a year. And I actually tweeted to them like earlier in the month. I was like, how do you do your quiz? And so we're using the same tech as them, so hopefully it will hold out. Yeah, in the beginning as well, Perry was super supportive. Giving me some ideas on how to like host a meetup and all the things I should do and make, things I shouldn't do, and kind of, yeah, he was super helpful. So that was that. And yes, then we move on to the quiz, which is the exciting bit. This is the bit you've all been waiting for. I need some power juice for my thing, so for 8%. Yes, so the way this works is we have an online platform thing, which I really hope holds up. There's many factors that make this dangerous, it being online, and the Wi-Fi, and now we have pizza and beer. It's very dangerous. But anyway, yeah, we'll give you a code, a URL. You can go online, and we'll all join in, hopefully. The quiz itself kind of covers like course concepts, like just general web stuff. Presentation tidbits from throughout the year, so if you've been here you may have picked those up. There is also general silliness, because I don't want to take this too seriously. There are number questions and some true-false questions just to like mix it up. So here we go. So if I push this button, I really hope this works, and then I have to put this on. So we kill this. This is the bit where you need your phone out. And it has music, which is totally not needed, but there we go. Okay, so if you go to kahoot.it and then enter this number, I will also read out all the questions. So if you're at the back and you can't see it, I'll read it out and hopefully you'll get that. And then you are asked to enter like a username. Ideally you can make that like appropriate and I can read it out. There we go. Yes, I'm going to mix it up in the middle of this. There's I think there's 43 questions, and every so often I'm just going to break into the raffle, so hopefully you've still got those. And I don't have, yes I do. And it looks like it's working, so that's good news. Not working? So it's kahoot.it, and the game pin is 7620445. It's at the top,
There's a lot of people joining. Yeah.
That's good, that is good news. We have 32 people. And hopefully the pin will stay up during the game. So if you lose it, you can come back in. And we'll see how we get on. I might get stuff pizza. Oh. Okay. So much pizza. I've got cold pizza. It's not good. Okay, so we've got 39 people in. Is anyone having trouble getting in? One person. Refresh? Okay, I'm going to press start, and if you're not in, then you can join throughout, I think.
I don't think you can.
Refresh? I don't think I can refresh, otherwise it'll kill it.
I think if you start up, then
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. We'll start it. So we've got 40 people. Let's give it a go. Okay, right, so, end of your quiz. The pin is at the bottom. I can read it out. Super easy question to begin with. Who's this guy? Is it Mark, David, Catherine, or Michael? This is a super easy one. There's like 10 seconds left. If you get it wrong, it's very embarrassing, because I just say it like every meetup. And you get emails from me as well. Well, most people got it right, and nobody thought it was Catherine, which is disappointing. Okay, next one. So we have like a leaderboard, and hopefully, this is 0 because that was the trial question. I'm not going to give the points away, but for the rest of the questions, you get points for the question, and then if you get multiple questions in a row right, you get extra points. So there is that. Okay, right, serious questions. What month did we not have a meetup? So we like August, September, March, or June? I want to drink pizza. 12 seconds. I think there we go. It finishes when the last person has done it. So the correct answer was August. We didn't have a meetup because the guy pulled out. There we go. So we'll move on to the next one. Okay, Andreas is at the top. There we go. What does the P in GDPR mean? Is it protection, prevention, potatoes, or position? Tricky one. We had this guy in a couple of months ago. This is a big topic. 40 answers. Yeah. 26 of you got it right. It was protection. Yeah, this is an important topic in the big world. 640 times 480 is now at the top. Bas is second behind him with Alexi P in third. Next up, what does CALM stand for? This is DevOps. CALMS. Is it culture, animation, local measure or share? Culture automation, lean measurement sharing. Call, alert, locate, mediate, succeed. Or call or lemurs, Michael something. Well, again, the quick. Yeah, it was culture, automation, lean, measurement, and sharing. There we go. The new leaders. The leaderboard is always changing at this point. So what does the D in the DevOps cycle mean? There'll be like a drawing. What is this guy? It's after release but before operate. Is it distribute, deploy, DigitalOcean, or deliver? There's some cries out there. So it is actually deploy. No one thought it was DigitalOcean, which is probably a good thing. Okay, next one. New leaders. It's all changed at this point. Okay, Urban Dictionary time. See, this is general silliness. So I'll read it out. Something when developers and operations get together to drink a beer and colour on whiteboards to avoid drama in the war room. Also a buzzword for recruiters to use to promote overpaid developer jobs. Where is Steve and Greg? Their team is somewhere, so they went to the pub to talk about the last outage. Is it DevOps, lunchtime, Agile, or Scrum? Okay, so it was actually DevOps, which I guess is not quite Scrum. It wasn't lunchtime, and but some people thought it was. It wasn't a trick question. It was definitely DevOps. So we got a few of those. That's the general silliness one. They're kind of harder because, like, yeah, Urban Dictionary doesn't always make much sense. New leaders, but Tim is there right at the top with Go Can Gurkan. Okay, that's that guy. There he is. He's there. Batman's in fourth, and is that Bukaki? Did I swear I said to keep it. Like, I have to read this out. Okay. Right, next question. Apparently, up 9 places, Samir is the highest climber here. So here we go. Who came up with lean first? And I didn't put a question mark. Was it Henry Ford, some dude with a cracking mustache, Eli Whitney, or Elon Musk?
Probably Elon Musk.
And it's not the kid. For the answers, it was Eli Whitney, not Henry Ford. Different guy. Henry Ford was actually after, and Elon Musk never had anything to do with lean. Again, this guy with a name I shouldn't say it again. He is now top, and we've got to knock him off because otherwise I'm gonna have to keep saying it. Yeah, Tim's in there, and Gurkhan is still second, Batman in fourth, and P. John? There's a P and a G.
Good John.
Anyway, next. Bart started his talk with a space shuttle launches, but how many were there? And I also have like a thing that I don't think works.
So I had this.
Totally does work.
I had this presentation at the Java 1 conference in San Francisco a while ago, and then right before the talk, a gentleman approached me, and it was a middle-aged gentleman, and he came pretty close to me, and he said, "Why did you put this picture on the screen?" So I was curious why he was asking. So I was, "Why do you want to know?" Then he showed me his badge. This gentleman worked at NASA.
The guy worked at NASA.
So I told him, yeah, my talk's about a disaster, and I wanted to picture that moment with a disaster.
So if that's gonna work. It's not working. No. Hang on. This is the hardest one of the whole lot. You're not being timed, so we're okay. Where's my sound? I've lost my sound. Alright, give me a second. Hold, please. None of the other ones have videos. Okay, well it should work because it's on headphones.
Is it on the top? Like, how is it full up?
Oh crap! No, broke it. You're not allowed to Google it. Don't Google it. And it also might be different. Volume. All right, we're gonna try again.
In a good way.
There we go.
Do you know how many?
All right, back to the beginning.
But management had reasoned that if this in San Francisco
Here we go.
And then right before the talk, a gentleman approached me, and it was a middle-aged gentleman, and he came pretty close to me, and he said, "Why did you put this picture on the screen?" So I was curious why he was asking. So I was, "Why do you want to know?" Then he showed me his badge. This gentleman worked at NASA. So I told him, yeah, my talk's about a disaster, and I wanted to picture that moment with a disaster, and it was one of the things that popped into my mind. And then he came a little bit closer, and he was kind of touched by what I was doing, not in a good way. So it's, do you know how many space shuttles launched successfully?
And then this is the point I have to stop because you have to answer that. Otherwise it gives the answer away. Like one person is waiting on that there. Two people. That's the only one with a video because like clearly videos are really hard to work with. There is one person who's not answered because it won't let me finish. You gotta answer. Okay, there we go. It was actually 133. He was gonna mention it. I had to stop. I put lots of like different answers in there, but right, that's the only video one because that's clearly a lot of work. Next up, right, still at the top of the board. Okay, right. What personal fail did Bart liken automation's ability to deal with the unexpected? Was it issues with trains? We've got to turn that down. Bart never fails because he's DevOps. His son and daughter's toilet drama, or an awkward moment at the supermarket. This is kind of one you had to be there for. I mean, it's on YouTube, so you can go back and relive it. No idea. He had toilet drama. Like his father-in-law has like a fancy toilet with lots of buttons on it, with like a bidet, and his son pressed it, and he had to lift his daughter across the room, and it was a mess. You can relive that on YouTube, as I say. He didn't like do a live demonstration. Still at the top. Oh, come on. Apparently up 9 places. Andreas is the highest climber down there, but we have like a fairly firm lead With like, yeah, Tim, yeah, that guy, Go-K Gurkhan. Bas is really doing pretty well, but there's now like 1,300 points, so we need to get your streak on. Okay, Urban Dictionary time again. Here we go. Worth 1,000 points. Something is essential for kids, such as water, food, etc. Oh no, we don't have something. My life is over. Is it Wi-Fi, pizza, Facebook, or an iPhone X?
All of the above.
Yeah, but you have to answer one. You're like, kids are very like the internet. Like, give you hints. Like they're like, ah. Yes, you actually got it. Which is good news. I was a bit worried that everyone would be like, oh, let's do iPhone X, but it's good. Good news. Still up there. Apparently, 4 players have just hit an answer streak of 3, so that is good news. I'm worried that it's these 4 players, but keep going.
You have 43 questions.
Yes, we're on 11. Which of the following is not an example of bioinformational signals? Is it ELG, EEG, EOG, or ECG? This is from back in May, when we had yeah, when he was hacking his brain.
Oh yeah, Alex.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a really great talk. Okay, so it was actually ELG. So EEG is a thing, ECG is a thing. You'd hear them from like doctor shows, and also EOG is also a thing. But ELG is not. It is early learning group, so you don't want that. Yeah, still steaming ahead, but we do have a new person, Eward at the bottom. That's new. Good news. Yeah, combo breaker. 3 players just dropped an answer streak of 3.
Oh no.
Ah, disaster. Which framework did Alex use, again you probably had to be there, to make his IO armband work? Was it React, RxJS, Angular, or MongoDB? You have to be there, or watch them on YouTube. I put them all on YouTube. Next year you have to like revise. Okay, pretty mixed there. It was RxJS. It deals with like the synchronous async stuff. So that's the one you want to be using. Still at the top, but we're closing in. There's like 300 points between them. Yeah. Here we go. Right. GPIO stands for what? This is from Hugo's talk. It is general purpose input output, great person in office, general purpose indicator output, or general practitioner in operations. There we go. Yes, it was general purpose input output. Yeah, Hugo was doing IoT things, and that's where that came up. Next on the list, still now it's 200 points. We are closing. We're closing. I'm not taking sides, but still 200 points. It just means I can like give the prize to somebody who has a name that we can put on Twitter. Okay, which of these is not an IoT technology? Again, Hugo's talk. Johnny 5, Raspberry Pi, Blueberry Muffin, or Beagle Bone?
That's actually probably pretty good.
Yeah. There we go. So the actual answer was Blueberry Muffin. Johnny 5 is a framework thing, and Raspberry Pi is obviously a little chip thing you can buy. And clearly I don't do IT. And Beagle Bone is also a thing that I found on the internet because I was looking for a 4th answer. We're 180 points. It's closing slowly. Alexi P, I think you're new on there. Lee is also on there, which is great. And Bas is down in 5th. Chips or fries? Simple question. Chips or fries? So it's chips. Fries is not a thing.
Oh,
Chip is like the thing from Hugo's talk. It's a programmable board thing. There we go. Like, it's still there. We know. Yeah, like Tim's kind of there. Lee is climbing. You got 1,000 points. You got to be like laser quick on the next question. Daniela, you're new. Alexi P, up 4 places. Ali is the highest climber. How much could companies be fined for not complying with GDPR? 20 euros, 20 million or 4% turnover, 8% of turnover, or 7 million euros. Very specific. And it's this guy who's writing GDPR.
Yeah.
It might be a girl. Who knows?
Same person.
Same person. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so the actual answer is 20 million euros or 4% turnover, whatever is greater. So there's like a real impetus to like sort this out. We've got up 7 places. Yoran is the highest climber. Still at the top. Like Lee is closing in, but like it's getting gone wider. Tim has slipped down to 3rd. Andreas is there, and Alexi P is in 5th. In May, Ben Straub retold a famous Steve Jobs quote, but what was the point in this meme? Nobody can see this. So it's down here. We have 20 seconds. This is a graph of like efficiency versus weight. Salmon is here, horses are here, lemmings are up here, but this one is like fairly light but really efficient. Is it a man on a bike, a steam train, or a cheetah? I love how they... Okay, so it's actually a man on a bike. It's the most efficient thing like in the world. It is crazy. Steve Jobs loves that quote, and that's all I'm gonna say. Still climbing. We're gonna. We got the bomb. Goke Gurkhan is making a comeback with 3 in a row. Yeah! Here we goes. What is the name of GitHub's automation bot? It was literally on earlier. I'm hoping Bas knows this one. If Bas gets this wrong, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Oh shit! Oh,
is it called Dave, Cybot, Felix, or Hubot?
Felix. Quick answers now.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Like, I really hope that was not you, Bas. So most people got Hubot, which is the correct answer. And Lee is he's climbing slowly. Nothing new and exciting on the top of the leaderboard here. Which famous person did I try to get to talk at DigitalOcean? Was it Steve Jobs, Sarah Dresner, Tim Berners-Lee, or Jake Archibald? I did a big thing, and he was more expensive than I could have imagined.
Yes, exactly.
So it was actually Sir Tim Berners-Lee. You can get him to chat, but not at tiny meetups. One day we'll get him in. One day. Yeah, there's nothing new and exciting at the top. Like, yeah, 800 points. 800 points, Lee. Come on. In what year was HTTP invented? Was it 1991, 1994, 2001, or 1989? This is the original version, 0.9. There you go. So it's actually 1991. It's kind of hard because in between those two answers, but yeah, 91 was the first version.
Oh yeah, that's.
Jesus, this guy, he doesn't lose. So yeah, 3 in a row. 9 is back in the game. Okay, creative name. Yeah, Pondo John is still at 4th. It's changing slowly. I feel like Lee and Andreas are working together. What is the max number of simultaneous persistent HTTP1 connections a server can use using Chrome? Is it 1, 2, 6, or unlimited? This is HTTP1, remember, not HTTP2. Well, it's the same, but yeah.
It's not the same.
It's the same number of connections. Yeah, so the answer is actually 6. This is why we need HTTP2, because you can have a lot more connections. I think on Internet Explorer it was like 2, which is even worse. But like they're changing that apparently, so that's good. Still riding high at the top. I don't know how he's doing it, but yeah, he's even that he's very quick at googling. Apparently, up 7 places, Yoran is the highest climber. Keep going. In 2012, Google developed a web protocol aimed at reducing page latency. But what was it called? HTTP2, Speedy, HTTP 1.2, or React? I kind of hope they get this. Yes, so most people got it. It was speedy. Yeah, Google didn't, like, speedy was part of HTTP 2, but like Google didn't invent that. It definitely wasn't React because that's invented by Facebook, and HTTP 1.2 is not a thing. So that's good. Next. There we go. Yeah, like, he's increasing the lead. Lee, come on. What is Alpen? Is it application layer protocol negotiation, a large proxy network, or a delicious breakfast cereal? The Alpen, it can be a delicious cereal, maybe. Yeah. Kind of give you a hint that maybe it's not with a picture. There we go. Yes. So nobody thought it was a delicious cereal. I'm sure there's people out there who disagree with you. Yeah, there's still little change, and I've got no helpful hints, so we're going to keep going. What does JWT stand for? This is like a one or the other thing. Is it JavaScript Web Token or JSON Web Token? One or the other. You gotta be quick, you gotta be quick. Go. So it's actually JSON Web Token. Again, taken from our May talk. That was Phil Nash. Phil Nash did that one. Yeah, Andreas has climbed. He's now second. GSA is making a comeback with 3 in a row. Whoever you are, keep going. Let's go. Daniela is at the bottom. The top 5. That's pretty good. Yeah, we had this 3,000 points between you and these people, and a long way between there. Just keep answering questions. We might get there. In 1995, who invented JavaScript? We did some JavaScript talks. Was it Paul Irish, a guy with impressive mustache? I have a thing about that apparently. Steve Jobs or Brendan Eich? Run out of beer. Yes, so it was Brendan Eich. Paul Irish is a web performance dude. It wasn't Steve Jobs, believe it or not. And I don't think Brendan Eich has an impressive mustache, but feel free to tweet me if he's watching. Yeah, 5 players have reached an answer streak of 3, so that is good going. The lead is narrowing here, which is good news. How long did it take to build the first version of JavaScript? Was it 35 minutes, 19 months, 12 years, or 10 days? Oh, thanks. There we go. So it was actually 10 days, not 35 minutes. Yes, this was the initial prototype. And we did some JavaScript talk, so I could like sneak this one in. It's kind of like almost general knowledge, but yeah. Andreas is at the top. Oh, yes. I mean, I'm not kicking sides, but yeah, that's good news. There we go. 5 players have reached an answer streak of 4. So that's great news. To use JSON Web Tokens, you must use a HTTPS connection. True or false? Don't watch my Twitter. There we go. So it's actually false. You don't need a HTTPS connection. I may have reached out to people on Twitter to answer this question just to make sure, and it's definitely false. There we go. Next up. Oh my God! It's all changed at the top. Lee has he's back with an answer streak of 3, and Andreas is at the top. It's changing. Like, yeah, it's good news. Here we go. I mean, I'm not taking sides or anything, but in JavaScript, here's a good one. What is an object minus an array? Is it 1, minus 0, null, or not a number? I have to sneak these in because these are the fun JavaScripty ones. You're kind of like, Come on, 3 seconds. 2 seconds. Yeah, it's actually minus 0. See, JavaScript is fun. If you do if you do object plus an array, you get 0, and if you do it minus an array, you get minus 0, which is not a thing, but it should be like null. But anyway, I didn't build it. Yeah, Andreas is still at the top, and Alexi P is now in 3rd. There we go. Last month, Herbert, with a very Dutch G, attributed the origins of AI to which mechanical object? Was it a duck, a pigeon, a monkey, or a chicken? was going to put a picture here, but it kind of gives it away. Yeah, so it was actually a duck. This was a long time ago. I think I have it in my notes, like 17... yeah, it was a long time ago, and French people attributed it like great things to this duck, but it didn't do any AI. It just pooped out pre-made poop, and that was that. So you can rewatch that talk, kind of like there was no words, but there is a slide in there for that. Next, yeah, Andreas is now like piling ahead. Oh, look at this. Very exciting. Next up, in what year I'm not even making any sense. When was the digesting duck invented? Was it 1604, 1885, 1997, or 1739? I may have given this one away for like talking about the last one. So it may not be 1997. A long time ago, it was 1739. Although some people thought it was 1997. This is relatively recent. That's like Google age. Yep, Alex EP. Yeah, you're third. Lee in second. Andreas in first. Up 6 places. Powell is the highest climber. You're out there somewhere. Good job. Name the test where a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior is equivalent to that of a human. Is it the Turing test, the Myers-Briggs indicator, or the thematic apperception test? How are we doing on the number of questions? I don't know, what question are we on?
31.
31. Oh, okay, I really should stop and do a raffle then. Yeah, so it was the Turing test. That's the So Andreas is on a roll. Powell has made a comeback with 3 in a row, and now is a very good time to do raffle things because I was meant to do it ages ago and I got carried away. Let's break it for like 2 seconds. Hopefully all your raffle tickets are in here. No. Oh my God. You've got to put your phone down for 2 seconds. Hopefully that won't break everything, but we will soon find out. Does everyone have a raffle ticket? Yes.
You want the raffle ticket in your hand?
Raffle ticket. Yes. Yeah, no. You need one raffle ticket. The other one is in here. Yeah, the fact that you have one means that one should be in here. Unless Sharon is like playing a dart game and she really wants to win. Okay, right, cool. So I'm gonna do some raffle tickets. And that one fell out. It's still in there. There we go. Okay, so this is to win one of the $50 DigitalOcean prizes. And I'm not going to be biased or anything. I'll just pick one randomly out. 606. 606. Can we give him a warm round of applause, please? To win this. Let's go do the end. It doesn't break the flow. Right, so yeah, that was the quick break. Right back into the questions. We're going to do like one and then we're going to keep going. I need to do like a few more. But yeah, otherwise we get too distracted. Here is a picture of a hard disk from 1956, but how big is it? Is it 1 gigabyte, 15 kilobytes, 5 megabytes, or 256 megabytes? And it's huge is the answer, but still. Like half of a plane. Okay, it was actually 5 megabytes. They'd come a long way from 15 kilobytes. But yeah, that is good. It was never a gigabyte. Nobody answered that, which is good. Andreas is still towering ahead. 3 players have got an answer streak of 4. And yeah, IXCP is still in there. What is the name of the guy who revolutionized neural networks? This guy. It is literally this guy. Is he called Tim Cook? Is he Larry Page, Geoffrey Hinton, or Sergey Brin? It's from last month's meetup. Yeah. So this guy is Geoffrey Hinton. So Sergey and Larry Page work for Google, well, own Google. But Geoffrey actually works there, and he's like a lecturer in his spare time. Wasn't Tim Cook, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I know.
There we go. 6 players have got an answer streak of 3. Urban Dictionary time. Here we go. Right, so something, an artificial intelligence algorithm that proposes solutions to a problem after learning several trial and error attempts. A term students use at hackathons to sound smart, especially when they have no idea what actually happens. Is it called Watson, machine learning, naive Bayes classification, or neural nets? You've got to get them really quick, so we've got like 2 seconds. Yes, so it's actually machine learning, and quite a few people actually got in there, which is good news. I really should have put more time on that question. Andreas is still at top, ADOEoYQB is in second, Lee has fallen to third. What's going on? Come on. Yeah, that person is down in fourth, and Timmy Dallin is in fifth. What number is widely regarded as the processing capacity of the human brain? Is it 1 exaflop, 6 teraflops, which is 76,302 flops, or what is a flop? So yeah, the answer is 1 exaflop, which is, I think it's a 10,000 teraflops. 6 teraflops is actually the capacity of the Xbox One X. So I threw that one in there. That's what I know about flops. Yeah, again, little change at the top. GSA in 5th here, and up 4 places. Andre F is the highest climber. You sound there somewhere. Yeah, feel good. 36 of 43. What are the 4 types of neural network? Here are 4 types of neural network learning methods, which is not one. So supervised, reinforcement, forced feedback, or unsupervised, which is not a machine neural net learning method. 2 seconds. Yeah, so it's actually forced feedback. Supervised, reinforcement, and unsupervised learning are a thing. So yeah, forced feedback is not. P. Good John is making a comeback with 3 in a row. But Andreas is towering ahead. Look at him go, like almost 2,000 ahead. But as we see, that it all can change. We still have like 5 questions. Classifying cats is an example of what type of learning? There's a cat. Is it unsupervised, reinforcement, or supervised? Come on, you got 2 seconds. Okay, it was the answer was unsupervised. You can leave it alone and it will classify cats by its own being. Everyone thought it was supervised. It wasn't. No.
Bad question.
Bad question. Come on, I just these are just the answers. I'm sorry, I can't give you all the answers. Yeah, no, nothing really changing at the top. What is this? There we go. Simple question. What is this? That. Is it a tomorrow night's pub golf route, machine learning, deep learning, or a neural net? I feel like I put 2 answers for this one.
Or 4. All of them.
I'm looking for something very specific. Yeah, so it can either be deep learning. It is a neural net, which is part of deep learning. So you could have had 1 of 2 of those answers, and you'd still get it right, which most people did, which is good. I discovered that you can have more than 1 answer very late on making this quiz. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, Andreas is still at top. ADOEoYQB has fallen to 4th. Tim is still in 5th. What is chat-ups? We've done this quite a lot. What is it? Is it typing all in capitals? Is it conversation-driven development in Slack? Talking to friends about their weekend, or shouting at designers? There we go. Everybody got it. That was good. That was good. Yeah, 4 players have reached an answer streak of 3. Yeah, ADOEoYQB has fallen to 4th. Come on, Daniela is still up there. She's still up there. What is pen testing? We've had a few security talks. Pen testing without a question mark. Is it walking around the office, testing out all the pens? Test designed to simulate an attack on a platform? Test designed to check code works as expected? Or test to check new code works alongside existing code? Lots of tests. There we go. It is not checking all the pens. Yes, so we had integration tests and unit tests in there. It wasn't those, it was testing the attack because it's security. Andreas is still up there, like 2,000 points ahead. Lee, it's more or less the same actually. 3 players have reached an answer streak of 4. If you could change one, these are right, so that's probably about it. If you could change one thing about DigitalOcean, what would it be? You don't get any points for this, but you have to be kind of vaguely honest. So there's like different food, different speaker topics, different venues, or none. I kind of wish, the multiple choice doesn't really work for this, but it kind of gives me a vague idea. None. Okay, so everybody wins because like there's no wrong answers. But looks like none is fairly consistent. But we will play with the food, as 9 people say that, and I'll keep going with different speaker topics. If you have any suggestions, just send me a message or email or what have you, or tweet. That's fine. Yeah, there are no questions, so this is probably not going to change. Yeah, what would you like to see talks on? Again, I only have 4 answers. Web dev, DevOps, security, or generally cool, nerdy things. You can only choose one. I wanted more answers here, but I had to like distill them. Just generally cool, nerdy things seems to be a winner, and with DevOps as a second. Okay, cool. So, okay, well, that's fine. We can do that. Still no change. 3 in a row. Luke is back in the game. Luke, you're back in the game. It might be too late, but you're in the game. What is your favorite type of food? This can just give me ideas. Is it Mexican? That's burritos, tortillas. American? That's hot dogs, burgers, chips, etc. Italian? More pizza and pasta. Or British? I'm taking sandwiches and toasties. I'm not quite like we have the Earl of Sandwich, so roast dinner. Yeah, but we can't eat roast dinner at meetups. Like, how are you gonna be like chatting? How does that work? Okay, so everyone wants burritos. Okay, and burritos or pasta or pizza. Okay, we can mix it up. People don't want sandwiches. Okay, and yes, so we kind of finished, and this is where things get really exciting. So I have to invite Bukaki up to the table. Here he is. Right, this is where it gets really exciting. We have these beautiful medals that I forgot to untie before I got here. So let's give a general round of applause. And you get one of these little things. That's for you. Congratulations. It's like winning the Olympics. There we go.
Thank you very much.
You also get one of these. Get one of those. That's for you.
Thank you.
I will steal your email. Come back right at the end. And yeah, we'll make that work.
Fantastic.
Good stuff. Congrats.
Thank you.
So in second place is a guy with a crazy beard. He apparently got 31 out of 43 correct. We did not collaborate in the slightest. But he does come to like all of my meetups because, you know, there was free beer and pizza, so you can't really blame him. Yes, come up, Lee. Woo! Here we go, and a very funky medal. There we go, sir. and a slightly bigger card. I should have got a huge card. There's the second one.
Cool.
Shake your hand.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. and then our outright winner with a name that I can actually say without offending anybody, with 32 out of 43 correct, and 30,000 points. We have Andreas. Woo! We have a medal for you as well. And everyone gets, they're all the same medals. Oh, yeah. And you can do shots out of the next one. Look at this. There we go. That's for you, sir. There we go. And this one. There we go.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Like that. There we go. Congratulations. Okay, but that's not it, because we have one more cash prize for DigitalOcean to finish things off, because I didn't do the raffle very well. And we also have a table full of other prizes. which is this exciting lot. The Christmas tree is not for sale, by the way. Nobody wins the Christmas tree. But yes, so we will resort to raffle prizes. So again, hopefully everybody has raffle tickets vaguely close by. Yeah, people like trying to find them. Good stuff. Right, okay, yeah, not that one. You lost one. Throw that one. Hugo, can you take one?
I'll take one. Here's one.
Good stuff. Okay, Hugo has chosen for the cash prize 619. There we go. Congratulations. Come all the way up to the front. There we go, sir. It's like $50 of DigitalOcean credit.
Oh my god.
So that'll keep you going. That'll keep you going for a few weeks. Okay, and now, so we're done with the cash prizes. We'll now move on to the official, like, physical prizes. We also have t-shirts and hoodies. So if you don't want something that's wrapped, we have 2 hoodies and let's say 3 t-shirts. So I'm going to keep going until like this is all out and everybody has a prize. There we go. Okay, 633. You get to choose the prize, by the way. Like you can have this table or you can have a hoodie. What would you like, sir? You can have a hoodie, a t-shirt, or anything except the Christmas tree on the table. You can do if you like. I wrapped it especially.
These are t-shirt vouchers.
Oh, wow.
Shark
That's right. You want that? Oh, yeah. You got stickers. The sticker tables over there. Okay. Right, Bas has just made the raffle slightly better. We now have t-shirt gift cards for GitHub. So this is going to go on for a while. Okay. Next up, 621.
Yes.
There we go. Right, what would you fancy, sir? You can have mystery prizes, including gift cards, which are not quite so mysterious. A hoodie or a t-shirt.
A hoodie.
Hoodie. Good stuff. What size are you, sir?
That would be an M, I guess.
An L? Large?
M.
M.
From Maria. Yeah, just a generic M.
And something else. It's an S.
Half the population is an F.
I found loads of S's.
I'll take an extra medium, please.
I've got an extra large. I have too many hoodies.
Is there such a thing?
Yeah. This is not a medium, is it? There we go, a medium.
Large.
There we go.
There you go.
That is a medium, sir. Enjoy. Congratulations. Okay. Right, next up. We have 643. Woohoo! Yeah! Right, what do you guys think? Congrats. Thank you. What do you feel like? Do you want a mystery prize? There's not maybe books.
I want a hoodie.
You want a hoodie? Of what size hoodie are you?
Medium.
Can you talk to
Medium,
Hugo?
yes.
Otherwise,
Okay, let's
I've
see
been here
here.
for a while. There should be mediums in them. Okay, we're going to keep this thing going, because otherwise people will fall asleep. Next up on the list of raffle prize winners is 616.
This is a medium. Thank you. There you go.
Yeah, there's the guy. There he is. So we don't have any more hoodies.
We don't have any more medium hoodies. No
Okay, that's
medium
fine.
hoodies.
No, just, yeah, the hoodies. We only have 2 to give away.
Yeah, okay.
They're
Then
gone.
we're done.
T-shirts we're good with. T-shirts or mystery prizes? T-shirt is. There are t-shirts with a mystery prize. And there's like a choice of several t-shirts, so you can pick. Pick and choose. Okay.
What size? Medium. Medium?
602.
Would you like a grey or
The
darker one?
We'll let it slide. Congratulations.
There you go. Thank you.
Book prize. Good stuff.
Is it a book?
No. It could be, maybe. Congrats. About websites.
Chocolate letter from yesterday.
I was going to buy one of those. 604.
Yes!
Yeah, there he is. So we got one t-shirt left over there, or one of these.
Visual basic.
No hoodies left.
Visual basic.
Yeah, take those. Good stuff. Go crazy.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I think so. History.
625 is the next winner. Yes. Come to all my Go for it, yeah. No worries.
Make you feel.
Next up is 623. Woo! One t-shirt left.
Yeah, one t-shirt.
Okay, so you've got one t-shirt on that side, or mystery prizes on this side. I mean, the bubbles are not quite so mysterious.
What about the gifts?
You can have that as well. Yeah,
What about?
apparently it's a t-shirt thing. You can use
from Github.
Talk to Bas. He knows how that works.
Yeah, I think I'll take that. Or maybe no mystery prize.
Mystery prize.
Which one?
You
Which
decide.
one?
I don't know. It's up to you.
Oh,
It's a mystery.
I want this one.
It's
I want this
a
one.
mystery.
Okay, cool.
Congratulations. Right, we're running out of prizes, which is good, because then people can go home. 640. No! We have a t-shirt on that side, or any of these except for the Christmas tree.
So it's like a vodka thing or a bottle type
Well, that might be a food-based thing.
Yeah, I'd go for this.
Yeah, do it. Go for it. Congratulations. Running low on prizes. Okay, right. Okay, next up, 634. Oh, come on. Ah, Andrea! You are lucky today, sir. Go for it, yes. It's a mystery. Right, try not to choose people who've already won. 631. Yes! There's a t-shirt over there, or a couple of prizes over here. You're going to go for a t-shirt. Talk to Hugo.
Yes, which size would you like?
Smallest.
Small, and what the color?
Last one.
Light. Is the dark or light ones?
Next up is 642. There he is. Right, we're running slightly lower on presents. We have a gift card which you can use on GitHub apparently. We have bubbles that are non-alcoholic, or we have a mystery prize. Mystery prize! Congrats, enjoy. Okay, right. Next up we have like what, 5 things left. 5 things left and more than 5 cards. 627. There you go. There we go. We're gonna have. Good stuff. 4 prizes left. Are you feeling lucky? Next up, 607. There he is. So there's 2 gift cards or 2 bubbles that are vaguely non-alcoholic. So take one of those, okay? Alright, 3 prizes left. 632. There he is, coming back. You're gonna have those. Okay, right, 2 bottles of non-alcoholic bubbles. One of them is sparkling apple juice, and the other one is sparkling strawberry juice. So you guys are in for a treat. Not impartial. Here we go. 630. Yes, you can have a great home with a non-fancy. Apple or strawberry?
Take strawberry.
Apple.
Right, and last but not least, I'm going to take out the projector screen. Here we go. I've given away all the prizes. Yes. The last present for Christmas is 639.
Yes!
Yeah! yourself a beautiful bottle of strawberry juice 2017. Fantastic year. Congrats. There you go. And that is about it for 2017. It's now 10 to 10, so we got like probably at least 40 minutes, if not an hour, till the security guy comes in. Feel free to grab yourself a beer. I can top it up. That's totally fine. If there's a slice of pizza, there might be a gluten-free one over there too. Thank you for coming, and yeah, have a great Christmas. Thank you. Good stuff.
Well done, man.
Thank you. Thanks for
Awesome.
coming.
Yeah, you're a really good host.
I mean, that was quite enjoyable. We should do more from maybe. But no, once a year. Otherwise it takes too long.
Once a year, you play this. You play the role.
Yeah. Well, this is the first time, but yeah, we should. We might do it again.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
It's
well, I'm glad.
First time being here, so
Yes.
it's really cool.